Imagine standing in a church full of quiet light while the choir warms up in the distance. Now imagine that behind that beauty, there is a whole family of different ways to follow Jesus under one roof. That is what Catholic religious orders are. The church is one body, but its heart beats in many rhythms. Some communities spend most of their day in prayer and silence. Some teach in schools and universities. Some care for the poor and the sick. Some preach the gospel on busy city streets. All promise a simple life, a clean heart, and a willing spirit. But each lives that promise in a different way. If you stay with me until the end, you will not only be able to tell these orders apart, you will feel how each one brings a unique gift to the same mission. And you may also find which way of prayer and service speaks most to you. Let us begin with a clear picture. All Catholic religious orders share 3 vows. They promise to live with little, so that God is their true treasure. They promise a pure heart, so that love is free and whole. They promise to obey, so that pride does not rule their choices. Beyond these vows, each order adds its own path. Some build life around a steady bell that calls them to prayer 7 times a day. Some measure the day by classes, clinics, or soup lines. Some wear a simple brown habit. Some wear white, with a black cape. Some have no habit at all because their work is easier without one. These differences are not a fight. They are a sign of health, like many flowers in the same garden. If one flower is missing, the garden looks poorer. If you watch to the end, you will see how all these paths weave together into one story. We start with the Benedictines, because their way is one of the oldest and most stable. Think of a Benedictine monastery as a steady heartbeat. The bell rings. The monks gather. They sing the psalms. They work in the fields, in the kitchen, in the library. They read, they rest, they return to prayer. The day rises and sets like the sun. Their motto is simple Latin that every guest can learn: pray and work. They live in one house for life. They do not chase bigger numbers. They tend to place until it blooms. In dark centuries, their cloisters saved books, copied music, trained farmers, and taught children. When kingdoms fell, the Benedictine bell still rang. If you visit today, you will still find that same calm order. The big difference that sets them apart is their love of place and rhythm. A Benedictine does not run from task to task. The monastery is the task. It is the school of the Lord's service. The world may shake. Inside those walls, the hours of prayer and the duties of work hold steady. Now place that Benedictine picture beside the Cistercians and their stricter branch. The Trappists, and you will feel a sharper edge to the same song. Cistercians were born when some monks said, "Let us keep the rule with fewer extras. Let us live more simply, build in plain stone, sing with fewer flourishes, speak less, and let our hands do the talking." The Trappists went even further in this spirit. You will notice more silence, more stillness, and often more manual labor. Many Trappist houses support themselves with bread, cheese, jam, honey, or beer brewed with great care. A Benedictine day is steady. A Trappist day can feel stripped down to wood and light. The difference is not in the vows. It is in how tightly they draw the belt. If you are drawn to quiet fields, early bells, and a clean, plain chapel, where the psalms rise like breath on a cold morning, this family will feel like home. Shift now from stone cloisters to dusty roads, from chant to the sound of footsteps and laughter in a market. You have just walked into the Franciscan world. St. Francis of Assisi met Christ in the poor and in the beauty of the small things. He took off rich clothes and put on a rough tunic. He called the sun his brother and the moon his sister. He kissed lepers. He prayed with birds. He begged so he could give. This is the first big difference you will notice with Franciscans. They live light. They move a lot. Their habit is brown or gray, with a simple rope and 3 knots for the vows. They do not build many heavy walls. They build bridges. They greet people by name. They laugh easily, and yet do not be fooled by the joy. They work very hard. In the Middle Ages, they ran hospitals when others were afraid. Today, you will find them in shelters, in prisons, in clinics, in migrant camps, and in parishes that other groups overlook. Inside the family, there are branches, but the heart is the same. If you feel drawn to live close to the poor with open hands, if you feel your prayer grow strong in the open air, you have a Franciscan soul. Now put the Franciscans next to the Dominicans, and you will see two friends who love the same Lord with different tools in their hands. The Dominicans are called the Order of Preachers. Their habit is white with a black cape, like light wrapped in clarity. From the start, their call was to preach the truth with a clear voice and a clear mind. You will notice that study is part of their prayer. They read so they can speak well. They ask hard questions so they can give honest answers. They write books so the next person does not have to start from zero. Some of the brightest voices in the church wore this white habit. St. Thomas Aquinas is the best known. He showed how faith and reason are not enemies. They are two eyes that let you see depth. The big difference you feel with Dominicans is that the classroom and the pulpit are part of the cloister. Their chapel feeds their study. Their study feeds their preaching. If you love to teach, if you love to explain, if you want to help people meet Christ with both heart and mind, the black and white will fit you well. Let us place a candle by the window and sit down in quiet. That is the Carmelite room in the house of God. Carmelites began on a mountain near the sea, where the prophet Elijah heard God in a small, still voice. Their life is built to make space for that voice. They treasure silence, inner prayer, and the slow work of the soul. Two of the great teachers of prayer came from this family, Teresa of Avila and John of the Cross. They show that God leads the heart the way a good guide leads a climber. Not by noise, but by steady steps. There are two main branches today. One keeps the older path. One, called Discalced, follows a reform that leans even more towards silence and simple living. The difference from Benedictines and Trappists is this. Benedictines keep the hours like a village clock, and Trappists strip life down to bare wood. Carmelites build a quiet room in the soul where God can speak. Their chapels and cloisters serve that room. Their work serves that room. If you feel a pull toward deep stillness and short words and long listening, Carmel is your mountain. From the quiet of Carmel, step into a busy courtyard where young voices rise and fall, where books open and close, and where a priest sits with a student and says, "Let us ask God what he wants for your life." You have entered the Jesuit world. The Jesuit is a servant of Christ who looks for God in all things. He prays with a simple, strong set of steps called the spiritual exercises. He studies hard, not to be clever, but to be useful. He opens schools and colleges. He learns languages. He travels far. He sits with leaders and with the poor. He tries to bridge faith and culture and science. This is the big difference you will feel with Jesuits. They are ready for mission anywhere. Their houses often look like schools because teaching minds and shaping hearts is their daily bread. They train people to choose well, to discern, to serve the common good. If you want a life where prayer leads to action, where the classroom is a chapel and the city is a mission field, this path will make sense to you. Set the Jesuits beside the Augustinians, and you will hear a different song about the same love. St. Augustine said, "Our hearts are restless until they rest in God." His sons and daughters take that line and make it a way of life. They live in community like a family that shares one table and one heart. They pray together. They study together. They serve parishes and schools. They talk a lot about grace, mercy, and friendship in God. Their gift is to build unity and heal divides. In a noisy world, they help people find the quiet place inside where God meets the soul. The difference from Dominicans and Jesuits is simple. Dominicans guard clear teaching. Jesuits push out into the wide world. Augustinians build a home where the mind and heart can rest and belong. If you need a family to pray with and work with and laugh with, this road will feel right. We cannot forget one more family that spends much of its life behind simple walls. The Trappists we met earlier inside the Cistercian stream, and their cousins, the Carthusians. The Carthusians are rare and very still. Their houses are small. Their day is woven with long, lone prayer in a small cell and shorter times together in chapel. They garden. They carve. They chant in a clear line with little decoration. They almost never speak. Why live like this? Because the church needs a heart that never stops praying. The difference you feel here is the weight of silence itself. It can be hard at first, like stepping into deep water. Then it becomes light, like floating. Not many are called to this, but those who are help carry all of us with their prayer. We also need to step into a lively playground filled with running feet, ball games, and big smiles. If you hear laughter there, you have found the Salesians, the family of St. John Bosco. He saw boys on the edge in a hard city and said, "Let us love them first. Teach them a trade, give them hope, and show them Christ." The Salesian way is gentle and firm at the same time. They do not lead with fear. They lead with kindness, reason, and faith. Their schools and youth centers are full of life. Their big difference from others is focus. They exist for young people, especially those most at risk. If your heart jumps when you see a lost kid smile again, this is your sign. By now you can feel the pattern. The differences are not arguments. They are gifts that fit different needs. If a city is hurt, a Franciscan house will show up first with food, medicine, and open hands. If a college is confused, a Jesuit or a Dominican will help clear the fog with careful thought and kind truth. If a parish is tired and split, an Augustinian house will gather people back into one family. If a land is dry, a Benedictine or Trappist monastery will plant, brew, bake, teach, and sing until green returns. If a soul is lost in noise, a Carmelite will teach quiet prayer until the heart hears God again. Each order is a doorway to the same Lord. Step through one. You meet him. Step through any other. You meet him again in a new way. There are also small signs that help you tell who is who. Habits speak. Brown with a rope often means Franciscan. White with a black cape often means Dominican. Black or brown with a simple belt often means Benedictine. A white habit with a leather belt can mark a Cistercian. Some Jesuits and many modern active orders wear simple suits or shirts so they can move freely in schools and clinics. Prayer books speak too. If you hear many psalms sung at fixed hours, you may be among Benedictines or Cistercians. If you see a small book in someone's hand with notes for a prayer method over days, you may be with Jesuits. If you hear much about the Little Way, you may be with Carmelites who love St. Terry's. If you hear a clean, careful sermon that makes hard things clear, you may be with Dominicans. If you smell soup and hear guitars and see a brother hugging a man on the edge, Franciscan is close by. One last difference matters to many people who are not called to vows. Can lay people share in these gifts? Yes. Many orders have a lay branch. Lay Benedictines keep a small rule at home and pray morning and evening. Lay Carmelites meet monthly and learn deep prayer. Lay Franciscans live simple and serve the poor in their towns. Lay Dominicans read and teach in their parishes. Lay Augustinians build small communities that pray and serve together. Lay Jesuits, often called by a wider family name, carry the same spirit into their work and homes. This means the beauty of each path does not stay behind monastery walls. It flows into daily life. Stay with me. Because in the next part, we will walk through each order again more closely and look at a day in the life, the feel of their chapels, the kind of work they do, and how their founders still shape them now. By the end, you will be able to explain the differences simply and clearly to anyone who asks. And you will also see how these differences make the church stronger, not weaker. If you walked into a Benedictine monastery at dawn, you would hear the first sound of the bell. Monks would rise quietly from their cells and gather in the chapel. The psalms would rise like gentle waves, not rushed, not loud, but steady. After prayer, they might go to the library to copy texts, to a workshop to carve wood, or to the fields to tend sheep or vineyards. Their meals would be simple, eaten in silence, with one brother reading aloud from Scripture. Throughout the day, the rhythm repeats. Prayer, work, prayer, study, rest, prayer. By nightfall, monastery feels like a small village living entirely for. This is the Benedictine gift, the ability to make ordinary time holy. Their difference lies in how they sanctify the hours of the day, not by special events, but by faithfulness. If you visit, you may feel like time itself slows down, teaching you that peace is found in rhythm, it's not rush. Step into a Cistercian or Trappist house, and the difference strikes you right away. The walls are bare, the chapel is plain, the silence is deeper. Here, even meals are quieter, with little to no words exchanged. The work is harder, often in the fields, dairies, or breweries. The products they make cheese, honey, jam, burrar, not just for income, but for prayer. Every bottle or loaf carries the touch of prayerful hands. Their day begins earlier, sometimes before the first light. Long hours of chanting psalms in Latin, their silence is not empty. It is a vessel filled with God's presence. For a guest, it can feel both challenging and refreshing, like a spiritual fast that sharpens the soul. The difference between Benedictines and Trappists is balance versus intensity. Benedictines offer stability in prayer and work. Trappists take that rhythm and tighten it into a life of austerity, stripping away nearly everything but God. Now imagine walking into a Franciscan friary. The sound changes instantly. Laughter echoes in the halls, doors open and close as brothers come and go, and the chapel is filled not just with chant, but with the sound of guitars, drums, and hymns sung with joy. Meals are shared with conversation, sometimes with guests from the streets who are invited in. Their day might begin with prayer, but quickly moves to service feeding the hungry, visiting hospitals, working in shelters, or teaching children. You will see their simple brown habit tied with a rope, the 3 knots standing for poverty, chastity, and obedience. They own little, but they seem to have much joy. What makes Franciscans different is their freedom to live lightly, to move into the world without fear, and to bring Christ to the poor not only in word but in presence. Their cloister is not walls, but the city streets. Their prayer is not only in chapel, but in every act of mercy. Set this lively Franciscan scene beside the Dominicans, and you will feel the contrast. A Dominican friary feels more like a house of study. The chapel is still central, but so is the library. Books line the shelves, desks are filled with notes, and brothers debate theology late into the night. Their habit, white with a black cape, symbolizes truth wrapped in clarity. A day might begin with prayer, followed by long hours of study in preparation for preaching. In the afternoon, you might find Dominicans teaching at a university, giving sermons at a parish, or writing books that explain faith in plain words. They value accuracy and clear teaching because they see error as a wound to the soul. Their joy is found in helping minds see the light of truth. The difference you feel here is the balance between contemplation and preaching. They study not for themselves, but to give others a clear path to God, while Franciscans serve with open hands. Dominicans serve with a sharp voice of truth. These 4 orders already show how wide the Catholic family can be. Benedictines steady the rhythm of prayer and work. Cistercians and Trappists tighten that rhythm into deep silence and austerity. Franciscans step outside the walls to embrace the poor with joy. Dominicans stand at the pulpit and classroom to defend and explain truth. Together, they show that holiness is not one shape but many. If you keep watching to the end, you will see how these shapes continue to expand with Carmelites, Jesuits, Augustinians, Salesians, and more.